Hello and welcome to Discover Energy Work. And today is a little bit of a special day because I've been interviewing, well, I've been doing it for some years and I've been interviewing remote viewers. And really, I haven't got the collection until I've spoken to the, I would say, author, lecturer, um, a doctor, PhD, um, in wise things, Angela Thompson Smith. Angela, welcome to Discover Energy Work.
Well, thank you for inviting me on your show.
Well, no, I mean it's fantastic. I mean, I was just looking at the things you've done. I don't really know. How do you introduce yourself? How would you introduce yourself to everyone?
Oh gosh, to people who don't really know me that well, I just tell them I'm a writer because I have 9 books on Amazon. Some are out of
Nine.
print. Yes.
Oh, please put them on Kindle. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the, going to be putting some of them that are not on Kindle. This month I'm going to be upgrading some of my books, rewriting others. Yeah,
9 books, and the topic is
multiple topics.
multiple topics. Yes,
I started
exactly.
off writing about my OBE experiences, out of body experiences that I'd had since I was a child. So that was
Okay.
my first book. And then it sort of segued into remote viewing, and that was called Remote Perceptions. And that segued into the early days, the early history of remote viewing, because it was just becoming a little bit popular then. That was in, I think, 1999.
Hmm.
And then I wrote another book which outlined some experiences I'd had. It's called Diary of an Abduction. That was my
Hmm.
second book. And I don't want to spend the whole time talking about my books, but just a few of them,
Hmm.
um, about some experiences I'd had that I could never find answers for.
Hmm.
And then finally started finding answers. And I wrote up about my experiences, which are classified under the abduction umbrella.
Hmm.
Let's put
Oh,
it that
wow.
way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now, if I'm correct, if what I read about you is correct, you're a young lady born in West Country in Bristol,
England, in
in
Bristol,
England,
England.
and
Yes.
and you've traveled across the world. So can we go back to that root moment of these early experiences? So I
Yeah.
imagine, did you have parents that like were, you know, arriving home on a broomstick or,
No, no, we were a very ordinary family. My
right.
dad was in World War II. He was actually had post-traumatic stress disorder from
Mm,
that,
mm.
and had been a prisoner of war for 5 years in
Oh,
Poland.
oh,
Married my mom as soon as he got back to England,
mm,
and then I came along a year later, and then a brother. Um, And I thought that my experiences were something like dreams that everybody had,
mm.
that I could go to bed and I was still wide awake, and I'd go and sit up on the roof with my mind. And I would
Oh,
go
wow.
wander around the neighborhood, flying around the neighborhood. And
Do
I
you
was
remember the
completely,
first time that happened or
no, because I was very young.
right? But it was
I
like every
remember,
day sort of thing.
no, not every day, just when I got bored. And I recognized, so I told my mother, she said, "Oh no, you've got a good imagination." That was her explanation for
Mm,
it.
mm.
I said, "But mom, I'm still awake." She said, "No, no, you must have fallen asleep." And I said, "No, I can come back from my journeys and then I decide to go to sleep." But then I decided to go to my headmistress's house in the junior school. And I saw all this beautiful crystal vases and things on a shelf. And when in school, I happened to tell her about that. And she said, "When did you see those things?" I said, "Oh, I was before I went to sleep. I just came and looked." And she said, "Oh, it must have been a dream, right?" And I didn't know what to call it. And she said, but you're right, that's what I've got, lots and lots of crystal all around my house. So I
Wow.
knew at that very early age,
Hmm.
junior school, that what I was seeing was what I was seeing.
And did you talk to friends about it, or you'd learned?
No,
Hmm.
no, it was, as I said, I thought everybody did it. It wasn't till um, I almost in my 30s, my mid 20s, that I went to a university class. It was called Outer Bodies, Outer Limits of the Mind, and it was a after evening program. And here are people talking about outer body experiences, and
Hmm.
they probably had just one. Some of them had it during a drug, taking some drugs.
Hmm.
Another one had it during surgery. Another one when he had a car accident. And I had hundreds of these. So I thought, what am I going to say?
Hmm.
I didn't want to invalidate their experiences
Hmm.
because I was an adult by then.
Hmm. Hmm.
And but I mentioned it, and there was another young man in the group who'd had multiple out of body experiences too.
Hmm.
So we got talking, and you know, so it was eye opening for me.
Hmm. So, in these experiences early on, was it generally about going places, or did you meet people, or?
I didn't meet people. I usually just traveled.
Hmm.
Just I went to my grandmother's house, but of course everybody was in bed and asleep
Hmm.
in our local neighborhood. Um, and I just mainly just traveled around. I flew around the neighborhood and sat up on the roof, and you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
and but you went to university. I mean, I'm guessing this is in the 60s or something like that.
I was born 46, so
Yeah.
I'm getting
Good.
up there a little bit now.
Yeah, yeah,
I know I
definitely.
don't,
Well,
yeah. Um, I know I don't look my age, but my mother didn't look her age either. So
yes.
it must be the British complexion or
Uh,
something.
I'll hope so. In my case, at least. So,
Yeah. But
um,
this was during the 50s and 60s that I had most of them. And it wasn't until um, I went to nursing school first down in Poole in Dorset.
yeah. Mhm.
And then I went from there to decided I wanted some more education. So I went to do social work training in
Mm.
Oxford
Mm.
at Ruskin College. And from there, I went abroad with voluntary service overseas. Had you ever heard of them?
VSO, yeah, I remember VSO.
Yeah, they'd sent professionals overseas to assist in various, um, situations. I went to an orphanage in Colombia to work.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Came back and thought, I want to go to university.
Mm.
So I applied as a mature student and I got in Cardiff University, the psychology program. Did my 3 years there, then went to Manchester and I worked towards my master's at the School of Medicine there,
Mm.
working with moms and babies, newborn babies, to see how they were developing and their histories and everything.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, and it was at Manchester where I went to the evening class and found out about OBEs were rare, but people had them, and
Mm.
they were different from dreams. Um, Came over to the States, and I'm giving you my life story
Well,
now.
yeah, I kind of, one thing that's interesting for me is like just bearing in mind that time. Were you in the time where people were sort of experimenting with psychedelics?
A little bit. I didn't. I did try pot when I was in college, but it didn't really do anything for me.
Right,
So I never got onto that path. But
right.
people were experimenting with LSD and pot and etc.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
So you're in university, your psychology. I mean, I also studied psychology, so that's
Okay.
something. So I felt at the time that, out of body experiences. I mean, at that time, before Raymond Moody did his work on NDEs, near death experiences, it was all
Yeah,
like a bit woo-woo and you couldn't really talk about it. Did you manage to talk to people about your experiences in college?
very few,
Hmm.
very few. When I was in conventional colleges,
Hmm.
um, people just didn't want to hear about it. It was classified as abnormal psychology.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's how it's included in an abnormal psychology course.
Yeah.
So I think I just didn't talk about it.
Hmm.
But I did find one or two other people who'd had these experiences, and we set different tasks for each other. For example, if couple of colleagues of mine were going on vacation, I said, "Would you mind if I fly in during your holiday and write down a few things that I observe? And then when you come back, I can tell you what I saw, and you can see whether it was correct or not."
Oh, wow.
So,
So you're doing
and
this
there was
whilst you're studying your psychology degree or the at
this was
Manchester,
when I was in Manchester,
right?
yeah, doing my towards my master's.
That's totally
Um,
remote viewing, isn't it?
yes, but I didn't know that at the time.
Sort of outward
Yeah,
bound remote viewing where somebody's at holiday and
outbounders. Yeah, yeah,
outbounding. Yeah.
and there was enough correct that it convinced me. And I was dating a mathematics professor at the time, and he said, "Well, you haven't been to my house, so fly into my house and tell me what's there." So I said, "Okay." And I got there and I saw where the stairs were, where the rooms were, where the kitchen was, drew
Yeah.
a map, and I showed him, and he said, "How did you get this?" And I said, "Out of body experience." Now, he was a very hardcore mathematician,
Yes.
very right, very left brain.
Mm.
And but he accepted, he knew that I'd never been to his house.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow. That must have uh, so I mean there's a bridge there. You've got all these experiences which as a psychologist, I mean, of course psychology is a big subject, but you must have known like, well, I don't feel crazy. I don't think I classify as crazy. I can like perhaps realize that I better not tell too many people before I get sectioned.
right. You get
Yeah.
a sixth sense about who to tell and who not to tell.
Right.
Um, and usually people would end up, telling me about their experiences. And I said, "Oh, yeah, I've had those experiences."
Yes. Yes. Snap.
So I
Mm.
was able then to corroborate other people's experiences.
Yes, I felt there was almost a conspiracy of silence around them, that people would just not say anything, knowing that if they did, it could be a little dodgy, a little bit, scary.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And being in a university setting where it's all very, very cut and dried of what's accepted and what's not accepted,
mm,
I was very careful about what I said and who I said anything to.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so you got your PhD in psychology.
Well, this was before I got the
Oh, it's
PhD.
before. Okay. So that was
Yeah,
your
yeah,
master's.
because this was when I was doing my master's. Yeah.
Okay.
So I ended up coming over to the States in 2000, let's see, 1991 to New Jersey,
Oh, wow.
and got married very stupidly, because it didn't work.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and From there, I decided I wanted to get back into academia. So I actually ended up back in University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey in New Brunswick, New
Mm,
Jersey,
mm,
and found some kindred spirits there. And they said, "You need to go down to Princeton. There's some people down there who are studying all of these things. In fact, there's two laboratories. There's the psychophysical research laboratories, which have since closed,
right.
with Charles Honerton.
Yes,
He was
famous.
studying the Gansfeld. You probably heard of the
Yes.
Gansfeld research,
Yes.
where people go into this sort of meat locker environment and they're trying to pick up information from somebody in another shielded room. sending them information.
Mm.
So they said, you've got to go down there and participate. And then they also told me about the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab, or PAIR Lab,
Mm.
at the university, Princeton University. So I volunteered actually at both of them and ended up being offered a job at the PAIR Lab.
Wow. I did
Yeah,
not
because
know
the
that.
research work in New Brunswick was coming up to a close, the
Right.
research period. And I'd been going down as a volunteer to PAIR.
Mm.
And they said, would you like to come work with us? Which is almost unheard of.
Mm.
And I've stayed there 5 years working with them.
Wow. So that must have been really interesting because I imagine like
It
num
was.
so did you experience some extraordinary things there?
I took part in all of the research. They were doing research in um, human computer interaction, where they would have a random number generator linked to a computer,
Yeah.
and you would see a graphic on the screen, and you would try and get the random number generator just with thought and feeling to generate either more zeros or ones,
Mm.
say pluses or minuses, and it would show up on the screen as arcs and things. So that was really interesting. So I
That
took part. I
that is
Yeah,
one of the most, I mean, for me, that's also one of the most convincing experiments ever in psychic functioning and psychokinesis specifically.
yeah, they were very rigorous, very rigorous.
Mm.
And everything had to be documented. Everything had to be, printouts stored, and computer records stored,
Mm.
and papers written. Bob John and Brenda Dan wrote a lot of papers
Mm.
about the research. They also had this huge pinball machine up on one of the walls with a couch.
Mm.
And so a bit like trying to think what it would be like. All the balls would be gathered up at the top, and then they would bounce down randomly
Yes.
over certain pegs,
Yeah.
and then come down into a series of bins at the
Oh, like
bottom.
pachinko.
Yes, yes, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
Um, and you either had to make a prediction that you would get more in the right or more in the left statistically. And of course, it
Mm.
was all linked up to a computer.
Okay.
Um, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, I felt like I was just goofing off and playing.
Yes. Yes. Again, that was one where it was shown statistically that people were able to influence it with their mind again,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is
And then,
where statistically it is just not possible, to
right, yeah,
it's random. Random is random, and if you can show it's not random, then you've done
yeah,
something.
because they also ran calibration ones with nobody sitting there.
Yes.
Just turn it on, let it run.
Right.
And those were just random. But
Yes.
when people were sitting in front of it and trying to get the balls to go in a certain direction, when you not only the individual runs, but when they put all the runs together for everybody, it was very, very positive.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very cool. And did you design any of the experiments?
I didn't. No, that wasn't my role. I was more
No.
a support role for Brenda Dunn, who was the lab manager.
And they must have asked you to take part in some experiments.
Uh-huh. Every new experiment that they brought on board, we all were beta testers.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So you must have done them all. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
were there like because of remote viewing, kind of became famous because of the military involvement and the top secret
Oh,
involvement. Were there like, generals walking in with brass and,
well,
and so
not
on?
exactly in uniform, but we had everybody, including brother and sister, came through the lab.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
But
so
talking of remote, oh,
yeah. I was just
oh
thinking
no, go
like
ahead.
top secret CIA, FBI, CIA,
Absolutely, everybody, and you know, yeah, everybody came through that lab. It was
because
eye-opening.
eye-opening. And one of the things I understood was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they at some point that computer experiment where they sat down, where somebody's influencing the computer directly in front of them, they did it remotely. whatever
Yes,
can
I
be
took
those,
part in that too. Yeah. And
yeah,
that works just as well.
kind of kind of amazing, really, when we think about
Yeah.
like how our world is so dependent on computers, and then we have a uncanny ability to influence them. Kind of, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
But we
Mm,
also did a type of remote viewing research as well at that time, which was called precognitive remote perception, or
mm,
PRP,
mm.
where they would have pairs of subjects. One would go off on a vacation or a trip or to the other side of town, and on a certain day and time would go and visit a location. It were basically outbounders.
Yeah.
And then the viewer or the recipient would, at a certain, they could do their session anytime. So they did it very often before the outbound person even knew where they were going or the time and date when they would do their session.
Wow. That's a
Yeah,
whole nother level, isn't it? Because you've got that the outbounders from SRI were like, a very
they
different
were in real
format.
time. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
These were precognitive. Yeah, they
Wow.
could be a day before or a week before, even up to a month before.
Wow.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's incredible. That's an amazing experience.
yeah,
And you're
yeah. I
seeing
loved it.
like science being made, yeah, I would say. Seeing
Hmm.
things nobody's seen before. Very
Yeah, but
cool.
then the psychophysical labs at the other Princeton lab had closed down, and Pear was losing some of its funding too.
Hmm.
So I was told, as I was last in, first out,
Yeah, life over, yeah.
and because I was in a lower position, I didn't have my PhD at that time, or
Right.
you know, it was just needed to move on. So I thought, what am I going to do? I've been here 5 years at this lab. Nothing is going to match this.
Yes.
So I put out lots of resumes all over, and a lot of the parapsychology labs were closing down.
Hmm.
So I didn't think I would get a place in a parapsychology lab.
Hmm.
But I was going out to California at that time doing my coursework for my PhD. I
Hmm.
just started. And I was at a dance one evening, and a man approached me and he said, Dr. Stanley Krippner, who was one of my professors there, said,
Yes.
um, that I needed to come talk to you. So I said, okay. And we sat out on the steps outside the dance there, the student dance. And he said, well, I hear that you're looking for work. And I said, I am actually, I'm looking for a position. He said, well, there's a man in Las Vegas called, can you guess?
Ingo?
Robert Bigelow.
Oh,
Have
Robert
you heard of
Bigelow. Yeah, I have
Robert
heard of it.
Bigelow?
Yes, yes, very
He
famous.
said he's looking for a research, researchers to work with him. Would you be interested in going to Las Vegas? So I went,
Wow.
well, so I went out and visited with him, and I visited with the university because he was working. He'd endowed a lot of the buildings at the university and the programs.
Right.
And so he said, and he told me about the position, and we attended a conference at that time as well.
Hmm.
And he said, would you be interested in coming out working with me? So
Wow.
I
So
did.
Robert Bigelow, now just to put this, Robert Bigelow had that he's the guy that was an aviation sort of multi-millionaire.
Yeah. Well, he has two big claims for fame. One is that he bought and developed Skinwalker Ranch
Skinwalker Ranch,
in
right. That
Utah.
was yeah.
And then he progressed on then to aerospace research, developing these big modules that could go into space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. So he's kind of also legend.
He is a
And
bit of a local legend. Yeah.
yeah, and he also he was it him that or his foundation funded that big project about life after death that Jeffrey Mishlove won?
Yes, that yeah,
Yeah,
the
wow.
essay competition. Yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, I have the books. They produced a set of books from the essays.
Oh, wow. Lovely. So are you still working for them? The Bigelow?
No,
No.
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 I did meet Robert Bigelow again. Um, I belonged, well, I helped form a remote viewing organization called the International Remote Viewing Association.
Yes.
I was one of the original members and directors of that. And we
Yes.
have a conference every year. And at one of the conferences that was in Las Vegas, Robert Bigelow invited conference attendees to come out to his aerospace. It was almost like a big lot, with these huge buildings,
Oh,
and
oh
to come
wow.
and to see all of his modules and his work. This was pre-COVID,
Wow.
and so we got bussed out there, and you know, and amazing. But we met in the cafeteria first of all, and Mr. Bigelow gave a talk, and then people were going up shaking his hands, and I thought, should I go? I wonder if he remembers me. Maybe I should go up and shake his hand and say hi. So I went up and
You're
he
so
said,
English. That is so English of you.
I still am. Yeah, except when I
It's
go
like I
to England,
better
they
be
think I'm
demure.
American.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel that's me as well. It's like, I'll sit here quietly.
Should I go and shake his hand? Yeah. And he took my hands in both his hands and he stared at me. He said, Angela. And he wouldn't
Oh,
let go. I mean,
oh,
it was like, oh dear, what do I do now?
yeah, yeah,
So we chatted a little bit and then, but we got to see all around the complex these huge modules that
yeah.
he was making, Yeah,
Interesting guy. Like, I mean,
very
he put a
interesting.
lot of money into that, but I mean, he must have put millions into Skinwalker
Yes,
Ranch, and
yeah.
obviously, so was he, his research company was about remote viewing, was it?
No, no. In fact, his main job was a real estate developer. He had hotels, motels in
Ah,
Las Vegas.
okay.
That's where the bulk of his money came from.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so then he plowed all that in, into his research. Yeah.
So what were you doing for him? That's my next question.
Oh, everything. And I was there a couple of years with him. I've actually written up a report of all the things, and I had that available. If anybody would like it, they could just email me.
Hmm,
And I'll give you the email address at the end.
hmm.
Um, and so one of the things we did was a radio program before Coast to Coast. I don't know if you've heard of Coast to
Yes,
Coast.
absolutely heard of Coast to Coast. So
Yes, yeah.
that's that where he's interviewed like everybody, I would say, in the
Everybody
psychic
under the
field.
sun. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's passed away now. Yeah.
Hmm.
But prior to that, this was back in, so I went out there in 92. So it was like the July of the following year for 6 months. Um, Robert Bigelow said he wanted to put on a radio show and he wanted, there was the local DJ
Hmm.
and he invited several other people, to be part of that. And my job was to um, book people who were interested in the paranormal field,
Yeah.
many different fields,
Hmm.
um, sign them for different days, for them to be, for them to be interviewed. And and then we were giving away free books, and it was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And we called it Area 2000. That was
Oh,
the
okay.
show. That was before Coast to Coast.
Right. Area
We were the
2000.
forerunner of Coast to Coast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, After 6 months, Robert Bigelow lost interest. And he wouldn't say, he just said, no, we're not going to do this anymore. We've got this to do and that to do. And so just finished it. And that's when, it broke off then and became Coast to Coast
Oh, very
and
cool.
went on for many, many years.
Yeah, yeah, that was absolutely, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
um, uh, were you actually like hosting you weren't hosting the
No,
radio show, you were
Art
finding the
Bell was the
people.
host. But then
Art
I
Bell
was
was the
the,
host because then he was coast to
yes,
coast. Oh, right. So it
before Coast
literally
to Coast.
was. It
Yes.
literally was the proto coast to coast.
Yes, he already had a show down on Main Street, Las Vegas, but I don't think it was all paranormal based.
Yeah.
But the Area 2000 was very paranormal based. And my job was to, as I said, to recruit speakers, interviewees.
Hmm.
We had Linda Moulton Howe, who was giving reports. This was every other week, reports on cattle mutilations and other interesting things. We
Okay.
had George Knapp, who was talking about UFO news,
Hmm.
and Art Bell, who was doing the interview of whichever individual, we had slotted into those appointments.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah,
So that's what you did with Robert Bigelow, or did you do
that's
other
one of the
things?
things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm curious. I'm just
many,
fascinated.
many things.
Okay, you've got
Yeah.
a big list of things.
Oh, yeah. And as I said, I have a write-up of all the things that I did when I worked for Bigelow. One of the things too was he was very curious in a little town north of Las Vegas called Caliente, um, famous for its hot springs and um, very much a cattle ranching and just a little tiny, tiny town. Um, and so we went up there because we'd heard that a lot of people up there had had UFO experiences.
Mhm.
So we went up and stayed, in little hotels, motels there, and talked to the individuals and got their stories.
Mm.
And we found out later what they were experiencing was the early days of the stealth bomber,
Oh,
that they didn't know what it was. They said this big triangular thing would come down the canyon with helicopters on either side of it. And, you know,
right.
no noise. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So they were thinking it was UFOs.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, it was unidentified and flying and
Yeah.
an object. So yeah, but but then again, like I suppose that's also the thing. Is like we are um in our area, the psychic area, we're often going to say, okay, I think this is a UFO. I think it's an alien, and then you find out later, oh, okay, it wasn't. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
You're cautious. Yeah.
like
But the
like
local
uh,
people there.
was it Kalinka who um, was the Russian lady that was moving things with her
Oh,
hands?
Kalagina.
Kalagina, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then it turns out that with later studies that it wasn't as psychic as people thought it was, um, which is so fascinating. So I
Yeah.
love that in our area we're open to, well, it could be psychic. Let's research it more, and then say, okay, it wasn't psychic. I think
Yeah.
that's fascinating. So, were you doing any psychic work for Robert Bigelow yourself? Were you
Little
doing?
bit. He wanted me to um, ask some people. We did some card reading exercises, and we did a little bit of um, running, um, sound machines and things like that,
Okay.
and trying to see if we could get voices on tape recorders and things,
Oh,
but
okay.
very, very not unprofessional, but um, not really very well organized.
Right.
It was just, let's see if we can do this, let's see if we can do
How
that.
wonderful.
So
Very
there was a
artistic. Yeah.
lot of things we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they do now, they do on these paranormal shows, they do these these recordings of
Mm-hmm.
nothing, just silence, and then they hear voices on them. And that would have
Yeah,
been
we
like,
didn't get anything. We did them
no.
in his office building and didn't get anything. Perhaps if we'd gone out to some haunted houses or something, we would have
Yeah.
picked up something.
And the card reading, was it tarot cards or was it some?
No, just we did some tarot and then just some regular playing cards.
Okay.
And they were his staff. They would come in and say, "Oh, good, we sit in the recliner. We don't have to do any work for an hour," you know.
So
And
so were you a reading the cards for them or?
no, no, I had the cards hit, and they would sit in the recliner, and then I would shuffle them and just pull off cards. And I'd say, "Okay, what color is the card? What, etc."
Okay.
Or what symbol do you see on the card?
Wow.
And make notes. And I'd worked as a researcher, so I knew how to,
Yeah.
tabulate everything.
Well, fabulous. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It sounds a little bit like it was a bit chaotic as well, as far as
Not really.
no.
No.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Bigelow himself is very enigmatic.
Mm.
And first thing in the morning, he would, because the garage was right by my office, so he'd stop in and he would start telling me about some ideas he had. And then he would switch subjects. And I go, what's that got to do with? Oh, because I was just sitting listening. He
Yeah.
was just using me as a sounding board. He would
Okay.
switch different topics and I'd have to run mentally to catch up,
Yeah, yeah.
So do you remember in The Wind in the Willows? Yeah, I'm sure you read that as a child.
I do remember the
And
Wind and Willows
Toad of
vaguely.
Toad
Of
of Toad
course.
Hall.
Whoop whoop. Yeah.
And there was one time, yeah, where he had a gypsy wagon. And he said, "This is the life. This is wonderful." And he's troodling along.
Yeah.
And along comes a sports car, zoom, and knocks him into the road. And he sits there in the road going, vroom, 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 vroom,
That's it.
because he wants,
Now he wants a sports car.
that's Mr. Bigelow. Yeah.
Right.
I'm so happy that he found the aerospace um, job. Well, it wasn't a job, it was a whole
Niche.
career
Yeah.
for him. And then, of course, that closed down because of COVID.
Okay.
So, he wasn't allowed, it wasn't deemed call it, a required job.
Right.
So it had to close down.
Okay.
But he has a very mercurial mind. I think he gets bored
Hmm.
with certain things and then he sees something else. He goes, want to do that now.
Fascinating. I mean, that's a fascinating whole period of your career.
Yeah.
Were you
Yeah.
doing, or did you have any psychic paranormal experiences during that time? I mean, did you have?
From time to time, yeah. But I wasn't doing anything up until about 90, 94, 95. I really wasn't doing anything overtly paranormal. I still had OBEs, precognitive dreams,
Hmm,
just personal stuff.
hmm,
And then I heard about remote viewing. And I was dating at the time a guy called David Smith in Las Vegas.
hmm,
And it was actually a weekend. Every Friday night, a group of professional people got together and did cold readings. So that's where I met David. I was
hmm,
invited to that,
hmm.
met David, and we started dating. And then I was telling David about hair, and he said, "My brother does something like that in the military." So I said, "Well, what's your brother's name?" He said, "It's Paul Smith." I said,
Right.
"I know the name because he had contacted Pear for reprints."
Hmm.
So I said, "Really?" So I called up and I was doing some remote viewing work for Ed Dames. You've probably heard that name
I've heard of
too.
that name. Yeah.
Remote viewer, one of the military remote viewers, and so that's Paul was.
Yeah.
And when I talked to um, Ed on the phone, I said, do you know Paul Smith? He said, "I might." He's a military guy.
Right.
And they said, "Well, I think I'm dating his brother. I'm dating Paul Smith's brother, David, in Las Vegas. He says, no, no,
Yeah.
that's no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, it turned out I was. Yeah.
Amazing. What amazing
And
coincidence.
finally ended up doing a remote viewing course with Paul. He was still in the military, but he wasn't in the Stargate unit at that time.
Okay.
So this was around 96, 97. He was out
Wow.
doing some
Yes,
other work.
yes. It was
Yeah.
90, it was everything was out by then, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
So
wasn't.
he decided that he would teach some civilians, and he invited me. And his parents were out of town, so they let him use their house, which was so it turned out to be my in-laws' house in the end, and because David and I married. And so I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to, and he wanted to teach us controlled remote viewing, the
Mm.
military method
Yes,
that they were using at the start in the Stargate unit.
that's right.
Um, and I thought, I'm going to fall flat on my face. I'm going to do terribly, you
Yeah,
know, I'm
yeah,
going to embarrass myself.
yeah.
Yeah. But it was amazing, amazing. So there were six of us. He taught the whole six of us for a week.
Wow.
And he doesn't have those numbers now because that's a lot of, a lot of work. And that was my first introduction to controlled remote viewing.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you remember that first target? That's a
Yes.
curiosity.
Yeah. The first one, um, and I don't think he's using these targets now, but all I could see for that first one was this vast array of water and a water spout. I said, "There's water. It's going up in a column," and he says, "Well, what else is there?" I said, "That's all I see." I said, "I just see this vast amount of water," and because all you do in the first beginning is just get the very
The
basics.
phase
I don't
one,
know if
yeah.
you've done any
Yes, I
training.
did. I did Lynn Buchanan's all
Okay, I eventually did lens too.
to,
Yeah.
to the advanced class. I did everything.
Okay,
Um,
great. Yeah.
yeah,
Of course, the terminology is a little different,
a
but
little bit, yeah.
basically the same protocol.
Basically
Yeah.
exactly the same.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Paul hands me this piece of paper as feedback, and it has latitude and longitude on it. And I said, "Well, where is this?" He said, "It's the middle of the Pacific."
Wow.
Oh, that's
Wow.
why I could only see all that water and,
Yeah.
and columns of water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the interesting thing, it's very hard to explain to people is this moment of actually like I don't know anything, but this I know. This is definitely what I see. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I was totally doubting myself. Like this can't be right because I just
I
see,
do too. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And when
And
I go
then
to do a session, I say, I know nothing.
mm,
I know nothing. Get the
mm,
coordinate, then do the session.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Very cool. And so so you studied with Paul,
Yeah.
which I imagine sort of very early days of his
Yeah. Just the basic
teaching.
class. Yeah.
Okay. And then you
And
studied later with Lynn Buchanan.
with Lynn, because Paul, I was waiting for Lynn, for Paul to have an intermediate class, and he had his other jobs and things to do, so he did, have it. And they said, "Well, you could go and train with." Or actually, I said, "I think I'm going to go train with Lynn," and he said,
Mm,
"Well, you're going to have to come back and do intermediate with me eventually." I said, "Well, I still like to go," and so I did intermediate and a bit of advanced with Lynn,
mm,
and was a totally different kind of training. Because with Paul's, you train with a one-on-one, with either him or with another trainer who comes in
right.
to help it.
Yes.
Um, with Lynn's training, we trained. Lynn wasn't well, so he wasn't monitoring. So he had all of his advanced students doing the monitoring,
Mm,
and And yeah, I thought I was going to just, flake out
Bomb
on,
out. Yeah, yeah. Me too.
yeah. But there were two interesting topics, two interesting targets. The first one was the student had the target in a book, and I was getting, oh, this, there was blood and it was red, and I could smell blood. And I said, "There's somebody been injured. AOL break. There's somebody
Oh, oh,
injured."
yeah. Horrible.
And I never give those as training.
Yeah. I'm curious. For me, the remote viewing is worse than being there. My feeling
It could
is
be more
like
intense.
it's
Yeah.
more intense than being like if it's a fight, like I've been in fights, yeah, I've seen a fight, I've seen blood, I've seen accidents, yet the remote viewing experience of the same thing, I'm imagining, because I've been in them in real life, it's always been much more intense, much more disconcerting in a way.
Anyway, so I always prep myself before,
Hmm.
so that, and as I worked as a nurse and social worker,
Oh yeah.
I've seen blood. So I'm
Yeah,
not
you've seen
so
blood fights, everything. Goodness
impacted.
me.
Yeah. Um, so actually, the student let the target slip, and I saw it. I said, "I'm sorry, I've seen the target." He said, "Oh, you could still get data." And I said, "No, I'm calling it
Yeah.
because I've seen the
Yeah,
target."
I would have
And
called it
it
as well.
was a bullfighter who was being carried off on a slab, on like a doorway, a piece of wood, by two people, and he was all gored up.
That's a terrible time. Lynn, what?
It
Lynn.
is.
Bless
It
you, Lynn.
is.
Yeah, but I mean, we're all learning, but that's a terrible
It's a bit of a
target.
maverick. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
well, it's yeah, it kind of yeah, it kind of fits.
and
I
of
mean,
course I was primed then for, so when he said, "Well, why don't you do a solo one?" He said, "While you're waiting for a monitor, here's an envelope." He said, "Go sit at the table over there and just do a solo session."
mm,
So, okay, started. But I was getting again that there was an animal tied up in a tree. And there was this Asian young person that was beating at it with a stick. And I was like, "Oh, what a terrible, terrible thing to happen." So I'm writing out all this data and feeling terrible about this poor animal up in the tree. And I thought, well, maybe it was a dog, because I know in some Asian countries they eat dog.
yes. Yeah.
And that's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, why would he give me something like that? And so Lynn comes by and he says, and I'm writing up my session summary. And I said, "Lynn, why would you give me that?" He said, "Well, what do you got?" And I read it out to him. He said, "Well, you're right on target." He said, "But it's not what you think it is."
Right.
So I opened up the envelope, and here was this children's party with a piñata,
Ah!
an animal piñata,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
an Asian child beating at it with a stick.
Yeah, yeah. I had a very
Yeah.
similar. I had a very similar story with. Well, for me, it was again that must have been like for you. Like, I'm starting to understand the way that remote viewing's working and the way my mind's working.
Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. Yes. I was discovering new things about perception.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How is it fitting in with your OBE? I mean, experiences.
Um, well, in Paul's training, OBE is basically forbidden. You can't bilocate. If you do, then you stop, you put your pen down, and you take a walk, or
Okay.
um, he doesn't like OBE and remote viewing. Now Lynn does. He calls it bilocation,
Yeah.
and as long as you're still getting your data,
Mm.
then you can. It's okay. You can still bilocate,
Okay,
which
I
is
didn't know that.
being in. Yeah.
Is that still like
Um,
that? Are they still different in that in those points?
um,
You're not sure
a
about
lot of OBEs are spontaneous.
that. Okay.
There's several kinds of OBEs. There are the spontaneous ones
Yeah.
where suddenly you find yourself out of your body and you're somewhere, but you're
Yeah.
still awake.
Yeah.
And others that are purposeful, where you
Mm,
decide to go somewhere.
mm,
And then there's bilocation, where you very deliberately going out of body to get information.
Mm,
So there's a
mm.
purpose to it. And you can bop backwards and forwards. So with the CRV protocol, it's allowed by Lynn as long as you keep recording your data.
Yeah.
So you get look, record. So you're going in and out of the bilocation.
But for me, almost, I mean, I don't know what you think, but almost the AOL, so the experience of being at the location, not that's not AOL, I forgot what aesthetic impact is what
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
when you'll feel like, oh, I'm really feeling the target. That is when the bilocation, the bilocation starts for me.
yeah.
That's
I
what it
used to
feels
wait
like.
till stage 4 or phase 4, as Lynn termed them. And then there's a space in stage 4 where you can actually um, do some narrative.
Mm,
And that was brought in by one of the other guys from the remote viewing unit. I don't remember his name right now.
mm,
Um, and his wife, and they were teaching ERV. And
mm.
so they said, okay, well, in CRV, you can actually go ERV for a part of it and just bilocate and get information. So I was trying that because I could do it. So I just
Yes,
did it.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
fascinating. And so after you started this, were you then like, what were you doing with it? Were you being doing professional remote viewing with it, or were you?
I did some remote viewing projects for Morehouse and also for Ed Dames.
Mhm,
Only one, just a couple of them for Morehouse,
mm,
and very very simple things. And then, but for Ed Dames, one of them was he was looking for the body of, say, the author of the Little Prince, Saint Exupery. Exupery,
mm.
not sure how you pronounce it.
I'm not sure
Um,
either.
who had at the end of the uh, Second World War, he had been flying as a dispatch flyer, taking mail and orders, different people, little planes. And he'd crashed a few planes. And he said one more time he wanted to fly. So
Mm,
they let him be a dispatch flyer and to, go to between Marseille and the south coast of France.
mm,
And his plane came down. So they didn't know where. They couldn't
mm,
find his plane. So the family and others were asking the remote viewers, particularly through Ed Dames,
mm,
can you look for the plane and find where he came down?
mm,
So I got just a coordinate.
mm.
As they're now calling it a tasking number,
Yeah, yeah.
which I like the old coordinate, but they're calling it a tasking number now. And it was just, Dave said, just tell me what you see.
Mm,
And that this was back when I was still living in Princeton, um, before I had, moved over to Las Vegas.
mm,
And so I lay on my bed, and my cat came and sat with me, and sent my mind. I said, okay, where did this plane come down? I don't think I even knew it was a plane at that time. It was like when I go to the target, and I saw these big white cliffs and water, deep water, and I saw the plane, and I saw it come down, and I saw him come out of the water with this heavy brown wool uniform on and these little round old-fashioned glasses,
mm,
and started walking up the beach, and then he went down on his knees. And I thought, oh, poor man, he died on the beach.
mm.
And at that moment, my cat sprang off the bed. A plant that was hanging next to the bed started swinging, and pencils flew off the table, off the
Wow.
desk.
Wow.
It's like this burst of energy.
Wow.
So I was like, whoa, what was that?
Wow.
Um, and I wrote it all up, sent it off to Ed. He sent back, he said, can you describe? He said, and he gave me some feedback about there was the plane went down, and We want to know the location. Can you describe the location? Describe a lighthouse. There was an estuary. There was a town. These
mm,
big white cliffs
mm,
with vegetation like fir trees, things,
mm,
and then this deep water. And didn't think anything more of it for some time.
mm,
And then I got a report from Ed and it was called Finding Saint Exupery,
mm,
and it was most of the military guys that he tasked, but he
mm,
also tasked me because he'd heard that I could do it, you know.
mm, mm.
And I was leafing through, and page after page matched my data,
Wow.
and I'm going, wow, this stuff works.
Yeah.
Remote viewing works.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was my first aha moment.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, I would have had many aha moments before then, but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that was the moment for you. And then did you go into it more? Did you go into the remote viewing more after that aha moment?
Yeah. I have done, I don't know, maybe hundreds over the years.
Mm,
Um, Even following 9/11, um, I was tasked by somebody, I think Paul had referred to this person, who called himself Navy Frank. That's the only way I knew who he
mm,
was.
mm.
And he gave me a couple of sessions. He said that because I've never had security clearances, so if
Okay.
I can do projects, but I can't get feedback. I'm not allowed feedback.
Right.
So I did the sessions and sent them off to Navy Frank. It was all by file transfer then. You know,
Oh yeah.
yeah, if you remember.
I do
um,
remember. I remember having to phone up the internet.
yes.
So
Yeah. And all I got back was an email saying, thank you very much. That was very helpful. That's all I got.
yeah.
And so, I mean, there have been lots and lots.
Yeah.
Take
I
too
think
long to.
I think the funny thing about remote viewing is sometimes it's the sessions you're doing on your own, just testing it or trying it, and you get like feedback where you go, that I totally nailed the target. I'm totally nailed the target again. Yeah. That and that light bulb goes on like this really works.
Yeah, yeah. I love getting feedback. Yeah.
Yes. So you've written a book all about remote viewing. So is that like a manual of remote viewing or more your
No, because
experiences?
there are manuals already out there. There are the fire docs on the internet that is the
Yes.
protocol, the original protocol.
Yes.
And Dad Smith in England has written a book called, CRV with all the protocols in.
Exactly. I've got that. That's a good book.
So
Yeah.
no, mine are. I think the one that you're referring to is Scribe. No, Seer. Sorry, Seer. SEER,
Mm,
which was 30 years of remote viewing.
mm,
So in there are lots of the projects I've worked on, how I got into remote viewing projects, um, interesting people, all my
mm.
memories from my journals for 30
Wow.
years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did that one, but then I needed a sequel. So I wrote Scribe,
Mm,
which was about another 15 years after that.
wow.
So,
And
yeah.
so where have you gone? I mean, have you gone to now wanting to, because I've got the feeling that you've got an incredible amount of knowledge and experience and wisdom, obviously, the garnered. Where have you gone with that? Is it teaching people to be more psychic, or is
I've
it
been teaching people the various CRV protocols online over Zoom. I
okay?
haven't done any very much here because I'm in a new location.
Hmm.
But I have taught a lot of people. I have up to 5 students at a time, and I monitor each one individually.
Hmm.
And we usually do it on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, like a
Hmm.
long weekend
Hmm. Hmm.
on over Zoom.
Yeah.
And that's worked pretty well. I've had some amazing students. So I've
Hmm.
been doing that for a couple of years.
Hmm.
So I'm, you know, I'm going to start up again in September.
Oh,
and
great. Well,
maybe do
let us
some more
know.
classes.
I'll put a shout out on the Facebook page, and you give
Okay,
us
yeah,
the if you give me where people can connect with you, we'll put it in the like the description of the video.
yeah. It's just I don't have a website at the moment. It was getting too time intensive and expensive, so I
Yeah,
shut it down.
yeah. But
But
I mean, I
they
can
can get,
put an email address or a
yeah,
Facebook.
just my email address, the
Yeah,
mindwiseconsulting@gmail.com.
yeah. Let's
That
say
would
that
be
again. Mind.
Mindwise Consulting,
Mind
Mindwiseconsulting
consulting.
consulting
Yeah,
at gmail.com. Yeah.
very cool.
And that will get to me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the ongoing project. That's what you see yourself working on in
Well,
the
I've got
future.
one more thing, one more interesting thing.
Okay.
I was approached by a local in the little town where I live, an independent filmmaker who wanted to have Joe McMonagle on camera, but Joe was getting on a bit, and he's very involved with the Monroe Institute.
Yes.
So he went online to see who else there was, and my name kept popping up.
Mm.
So he approached me and he said he wanted to do. I can't tell you too much about the actual process because I've signed an agreement.
Yeah. NDA.
But
Yeah.
basically, it's going to be he wants to do a promo reel. They call it a sizzle reel
Mm.
of that includes remote viewing
Mm.
and me as the remote viewer.
Mm.
And it's very exciting. We're probably going to do the first rounds of it in September, and
Mm.
then he wants to see if he can sell it to some of the TV networks.
Wow, fantastic. So we
So
might be
that's the
seeing more of
latest
you.
exciting.
We
Yeah,
might be seeing more of you. And it's so refreshing to talk to you. You've got really interesting stories and of people like I didn't really realize that Bigelow connection and the Pearlands connection
yeah,
and
yeah.
everything. I mean, you've got a really quite a in our area, I say almost can I say illustrious career? Yeah. I mean, it's like
Oh,
really
I hope I
interesting.
haven't talked your ear off.
Yeah, well, no, but the ears are covered, so they get the protection.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so they might fall off when I take the microphone. I might find that they've actually fallen off and I haven't noticed. But no, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if we say make your ear fall off, it wouldn't be interesting. Everything you've said, like it's so interesting. It's such
yeah,
it. The thing is I started the podcast because I was having these psychic experiences and I had nobody to talk to and I couldn't share. And I
yeah,
wanted to just let people know like weird things like objects moving or having
yeah,
very
yeah,
strange precognitive dreams is well, let's not say it's normal, but it's certainly in the re realm of normal, in the spectrum of normal. It's
yeah,
more on the
yeah,
outside part of the spectrum, but don't worry, you're not crazy.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think you can be an inspiration for that. So, you've kept your feet really
Well,
well
thank
on the
you.
ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of myself as a very ordinary person, this nice British lady.
Yeah, you've still got your accent.
Who
You're still like I was thinking, I wonder if I'm going to get
been
a
here since 81. Yeah. But as I said, when I go to England, I went back for 6 months, 2009, to see if I wanted to live back there.
uh,
Came back to southern Nevada. It was nice and warm.
uh,
And when I was there, they were calling me the American lady.
no, I can't
Yes,
believe that. But okay,
you
I've been
can't
living
hear it,
outside
but
for hmm,
yeah, but the English folks could hear because I've been over here for so long that I've adopted some of the
yeah,
mannerisms and some of the
yeah.
pronunciation.
That's I mean, that's so interesting because I can't see it. But then again, I've been outside the UK most of my life, so
Yeah,
yeah.
you're in Bangkok, right?
No, I'm in Chiang Mai. And
Okay, no, I
it
don't know. I hadn't heard of that.
so Chiang Mai
Yeah.
is the second largest city in Thailand, and it's up north in the mountains.
Okay.
And it's just absolutely beautiful. It's very, very, there's no real big big buildings. You know, Bangkok is sort of Blade Runner, you know, space town, and Chiang Mai is really much more
Wow.
quieter, more
Is it
rural.
near Phuket?
No, no, no.
Okay, because I
Phuket
have a
is.
friend who's from Leslie Reader. She's from Phuket. She's now been in the States for some years.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll sign off for everybody here. And then
Okay.
I'll talk to you for a little bit when we finished,
Okay.
if
Yeah.
that's okay. And so please, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the interviews. Please subscribe and ring the bell so you get notifications. And that's all I ask for to support this very humble podcast. And thank you so much, Angela.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Great pleasure.